Today we will be discussing the recent attacks on a mosque and the problem it raises for this country.
Followed by the scandals surrounding university admissions and the celebrities involved.
And finally, we're bringing you the latest CSUF and local news. All this and more on today's episode of The Report.
Hello and welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info. I'm Leslie Duarte.
I'm Ryan Matthey.
And I'm Ashling Antolin.
Before we get started on our first hot topic, we'd like to invite you to be a part of the discussion on this semester season. Click on the link in the caption of any of our report episodes to fill out a secure Google form with your opinion on any controversial issue that we've talked about now or in the past, as many of these issues are evolving and reoccurring. Also, we have a Twitter account, so check us out at The Report CSUF. So expect polls, questions, and news updates.
A mass shooting terrorized two New Zealand mosques last Friday. A 28-year-old man is now in custody for killing 50 people. The country's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, announced that New Zealand's coalition government is set on reforming gun laws. The new laws will restrict the sale of weapons similar to those used in the attacks. Ardern said, quote, "The clear lesson from history around the world is that to make our community safe again, the time to act is now," end quote. And I completely agree with what she had to say about that. What do you guys think?
We actually talk about the mass shootings that happen in America so casually because they happen so often. And I know that there needs to be reasonable gun reform, and I get that it's in our Constitution. Okay, constitutional right, check. There still needs to be change, you guys. Like, this is not something that we need to just let fly under the radar. She literally said within 10 days the gun laws are going to be changed.
And it's important to note that New Zealand does not have a Second Amendment that gives them constitutional right to bear arms, but their gun laws are very strict. The United States just seems to not get it right. Another thing that I noticed from the shooting was New Zealand the Prime Minister did not announce the name of the shooter, and that's something that I've always criticized, specifically the media, for doing. We, idealize these and satirize our news with the names of these shooters, and it's just so disappointing just to see how our country has handled our mass shootings versus other countries and how they're going about it. And also, how come our president hasn't come out and said anything about Islamophobia or the fact that this act was an act of terrorism against the Muslim community?
I think that it's just hard for us as Americans to grasp the idea of change, especially with something that goes far back as our Constitution and our Second Right Amendment. Did I say that right? Second Amendment, right? That's what I meant. And in so many words, I hate to put it this way, but I think a lot of Americans need to lighten up and let go of the whole ideal of the right to bear arms, and you should have the right of some sort to protect yourself. But this is not 1776 where you're housing soldiers and the possibility of war outside your doorstep. We are not in Confederate America, okay? We are in 2019. Mass shootings are happening all over the place here, dang near every other week, okay? Like, this is something that needs to change, and nobody is getting that through their heads, and I don't understand.
I just want to say, if they want proof that maybe gun reform is going to help in terms of these mass shootings, New Zealand's biggest massacre happened 30 years ago, back in 1990, and he killed 13 people, or this man, who I will not name, but that led to a 1992 amendment on the regulation of military-style guns, and it worked for them because, again, it's been 30 years since they've had some sort of incident like this, and even now that it's happened a second time, they're now making sure this is not going to happen again. So following in New Zealand's footsteps seems logical, right?
And you said military-style guns. How easy is it for people in America to get rifles and to get, what are those, like those big guns that they, like those...
An assault rifle?
Yes, an assault rifle.
Right.
Yeah.
They're so easily accessible here. It's absurd.
Yeah, and it's also good to note that assault rifles are the AR-15s. They're seen as these massive military weapons, but they're very common across the United States. They're just Armalite or I can't think of the name, but they're very common across the United States. And that our Second Amendment is there to protect people who want to bear arms, but there definitely has to be reasonable gun reform now.
Absolutely.
President Trump issued his first veto this Friday. Trump rejected legislation that aimed to overturn his plan to build the wall. The veto will now send legislation back to Congress for both houses. They will decide to either override the veto or make changes to the bill. CNN reporter Omar Jimenez has more on the story.
And with that, the first ever veto for President Trump.
Congress has the freedom to pass this resolution, and I have the duty to veto it, and I'm very proud to veto it.
It comes after both the House and a Republican majority Senate passed a resolution blocking Trump's national emergency declaration to fund a wall along the southern border.
This declaration is a dangerous precedent.
This, for me, is a matter of defending the Constitution and the balance of powers.
The president has stressed the immediate need for a border wall since the campaign. Shortly after the vote count, he tweeted in all caps simply, veto.
It is definitely a national emergency. Rarely have we had such a national emergency.
In total, 12 Senate Republicans voted against the national emergency, but it would take 8 more to override this veto.
Once my colleagues begin to understand that those cuts will have consequences in their own districts and their own states, they may feel differently about overriding a veto.
Congress reached a deal for $1.3 billion earlier this year for border security, but the president declared a national emergency to free up billions more in additional funding. Moving forward, the declaration will likely be tied up in court, as several states have filed lawsuits. In Washington, I'm Omar Jimenez.
Hollywood celebrities, CEOs, college coaches, and test administrators are under fire. They are among those who have allegedly taken part in the largest college admissions scandal in U.S. history. The conspiracy has been nicknamed Operation Varsity Blues. The FBI has revealed that wealthy parents paid millions of dollars to get their kids into prestigious schools. William Rick Singer, the alleged mastermind behind the scheme, has pled guilty and faces up to 65 years in jail. I personally feel very offended by this. You know, there are students that have tried so hard, first-generation students like myself, that have tried so hard to get to school and to get to where we are and get the education. And now we have people just paying off to get their kids. And you know what's even more upsetting about this is that these kids were privileged with money. And their parents were famous. They had all the resources to get tutors, to get into the best, trainers, to get them into the best opportunities available to them. And the kids simply did not want to take them or did not care for school. And their parents just thought, I'll pay some money. And that's really upsetting, especially to first-generation students, especially Latinos, that have tried so hard to be in the places that they are.
College is already a system that benefits people who come from money. You can start back in high school where you need SAT and ACT scores to get into these better colleges. And then if you don't have the money for tutors to get to that point, then you're kind of just gonna figure it out by yourself. And then that, it goes into like applying for colleges, having the ability and the time to put in time for like extracurriculars and for all these other things. And so this system is already geared towards people who come from money, a lot of these people being like Caucasian. And so yes, like you said, there are a lot of minority communities who are outraged by this, and I completely understand why.
Honestly, I think it's honestly ridiculous, as everybody else has said, but it's shocking to me that there are students that are applying to these colleges that have so much to bring to the table and add to a college community. My brother's best friend, his dream school was USC, and he had a 4-point-something GPA, ASB 4 years, class president 3 years, ASB president his senior year, baseball, honor society, numerous extracurriculars, outstanding, and he also was just the sweetest kid. He got rejected from USC, and this girl got in because her mother paid for it. And not to be that guy, but what is she adding positively to this college campus that other students, not even just my brother's best friend, but other students have to offer to these campuses? What does she have to offer or bring to the table? When she got there, what did she do? They dropped her from her Sephora deal, but even at that, how are you contributing to school signing a deal with Sephora?
And you're talking about Olivia Jade?
Yes.
The YouTuber influencer, social media influencer that, you know, she made a video on her YouTube channel talking about how she was going to school, but that she didn't care for the education.
No,
she just
she
wanted to
wanted
go
to party.
Do you guys blame Olivia Jade and these students? Do you think they had anything to do with it?
Well, I think we still need to know like what their part was in
Yes.
it. Were they conscious of it? Were they told about this and then they kind of just let it happen? And they're kind of to go with that argument, are we really faulting people who have this benefit to them and using it to their advantage? Because obviously, of course, we're not all going to have the money to, you know, pay off thousands and thousands of dollars, but they do have it, and so they're using it to their advantage. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, on her, like, it's hard to believe that she didn't know. Like, clearly, honey, you don't know how to do some statistics and you're getting a really high score on your SAT. Like, you probably know.
Put two and two together.
What do you think, Ashley?
I really want to know what part she did play into it. Obviously, we know that she had to have known something, but what part did she play? Did you go and talk to these people with your mother, or did you know that they were just paying them off? What did you have to do with this? Because you had to know something was fishy when you came out of your SAT, ACT with these outstanding scores and you want to go to school to party.
Yeah.
This whole story has all of us obviously very emotional. And I can't wait. I guess we all can't wait to see what continues on from this story,
Absolutely.
right? Well, moving on to a little harsher story, how 4 men have been arrested after deputies in Sacramento discovered hacking devices in ATMs. At least 40 people had their credit card information stolen. Investigators believe there may be more victims. Authorities think the hacking began in December and also believe the suspects are traveling to other West Coast cities. Here's special correspondent Emily Maha.
They plant a camera that gives them a view of the PIN pad where a potential victim would punch in their PIN number.
This is video from one of those cameras. Deputies found it while searching the suspect's apartment.
It's a small pinhole camera, very hard to detect unless you know what you're looking for.
After the man installs the camera at the ATM, he comes back to add the skimming device.
And they were basically setting up shop right here in Sacramento to do this operation.
These 4 men are accused of stealing credit card information from at least 40 people in the Sacramento area. Investigators expect to find more victims.
We know they've at least traveled through several states here on the West Coast, and we're looking to see if they have victimized any more folks in other communities.
Deputies say they found skimming devices at ATMs in Sacramento, Folsom, and Reno. During their investigation, they identified one suspect and got a warrant to search his apartment. That search led to enough evidence to arrest 3 other men for a total of 4 arrests.
And we had just scratched the surface last night. We believe that they were going to be here for quite some time.
Because the men had been stealing credit card info for months, they warned skimming devices could still be out there.
Investigators say there are steps you can take to keep yourself safe. Hide the keypad when you're plugging in your PIN. Check the machine to make sure it's secure.
This is still happening. This is something that's been going on for quite some time, and they have to be having some success at this.
The sheriff's office says it's working with its federal partners to figure out just how far this ATM skimming operation expands. Emily Maha, KCRA 3 News.
Utah and first cousins are in love, but due to the state's laws, their marriage is illegal. In response, they traveled to Colorado where first cousin marriage is legal, and the couple have started a petition to make this type of marriage legal in Utah. But this was met with a lot of backlash. So I don't even really know how to start this off because I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think we all have that sort of feeling, especially for me. When I first heard the story, I cringed a little bit because the idea of family members marrying is not something that we generally think of, right? Leslie, what do you think?
Ooh, I felt the same way. I was like, no, thank you. But you guys, this is actually more common in a lot of places of the world, including, did you guys know Albert Einstein and his second wife were first cousins? That kind of like threw me off a little bit. And the more I looked into it, countries like India, if your husband dies, you marry the brother, or places like Brazil where you can marry your first cousin, even your brother or sister. So it's something definitely, even in California, you can marry your first cousin legally. So it's a surprise to me how common it was across many parts of the world.
I guess in American history, it was common back in the day, but like way back in the day. So I guess it's just not like normal for us now. But it has happened in American history. So I mean, I don't know how to put it in this way, but if you're happy, go for it, I guess.
Yeah, like when I was researching like things to say for this story, I was trying to find things that would maybe counter the argument, and I was more surprised to see a lot of counter arguments to it. So let me just give you the science of it all. So Science Insider, they say that both cousins are going to have or be a carrier of a genetic disease to pass that on to their child. So the risk of passing down a genetic disease just for the general population is from 3 to 4% approximately, but then the risk of cousins passing down this genetic disease is about 4 to 7%, right? Which is a very small number in terms of the span of things. But that's just only going to be for one genetic disease. And there are thousands of genetic diseases that one person could be carriers of at any one time. And so this is more like, yeah, it's not normalized in like a social way. But speaking of more, how about for children? If they were to decide to like procreate and have a child, what's going to happen to this child with the possibilities of them being infected or having some sort of genetic disease?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting what you bring up, because a lot of the science or research articles that I also looked up said the same thing, that it's not as bad as you think. Popular Science said that only 12% of the DNA is shared between cousins. So it seems that science has new technology, and then they're saying that it's okay to marry your first cousin.
It's not going to be normal for us. It's not something that's going to be kind of, that's not going to make us make that face when we hear about it. But I don't know, like I think it's more something that has to come with time for us to like have some sort of different opinion on it.
For it to be a little more accepted, I guess.
If they're not hurting anybody, should we be mad?
No.
Yeah.
But it's still
not normalized yet. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just not normal, and that's it. That's the whole thing. It's just not normalized, and so we're not used to it, and this is something very foreign, so everybody's like,
and that's,
but you know,
and that's what tripped me out, because I thought it was so foreign, but it turns out it's very common, and many people are doing it. It's like, okay, so I guess you learned something new, right?
Guess so.
For this week's Women's History Month, we are discussing Joy Faust, the Director of Office for Victims of Crime at the Justice Department. She has expanded assistance to all victims of violence, regardless of skin color, gender, sexual orientation. Her efforts have substantially improved victim assistance programs by ensuring that they receive the appropriate funding. In 2018, Frost received the Visionary Award for her efforts to end violence.
Spring concert tickets went on sale recently, but the performer still remains a secret. But they are teasing who the performers might be. The concert committee created a Spotify playlist that features a number of potential artists. Each week, ASI will remove artists until only the confirmed performers are left. Tickets are on sale for $18 for students and $38 for guests. The concert is set to take place in May. And on our official Twitter account at The Report CSUF, we did have a poll for our viewers to weigh in to see who they might think it might be. And we have 4 artists. We got Anderson .Paak, Khalid, French Montana, and David Guetta. Khalid and Anderson .Paak are tied with 40% of our viewers thinking that it might be one of them. What do you guys think?
I would love for Khalid to be.
We would love Khalid, however, Ashley.
Yes, I have a lot of sisters who actually worked with Spring Concert, and last year they tried to get Khalid, and he was too expensive. Also, I tried to ask Khalid to my sorority formal, and he ignored all my tweets. But that's another story.
Shocking.
That's a story for another day. But honestly, I don't know who Anderson .Paak is. And this is my last spring concert, and I don't know who that is. And if it ends up being Anderson .Paak, I'm probably not gonna go because I don't know who he is. French Montana.
Yeah, good try.
Good try. I don't believe it. I don't think that's very plausible. Same for David Guetta.
Right.
I'm sure you're a great dude.
Might as well put Beyonce on the list.
Yes, might as well put Beyonce. Or, you know what? Better idea. Let's bring back Lupe Fiasco.
Concept.
No, actually, if they brought him back, I probably would drop out of school a week before I graduated.
A week before you graduate, of course.
Well, I guess we'll just find out who's going to be spring concert. I give it maybe like 3 more weeks before they like actually announce it, hopefully.
Oh, if you guys could have anybody, who would you have?
Beyonce.
Okay.
Khalid.
Okay.
No, actually, I take that back.
Were you going to say Cardi B?
Post Malone. Post Malone. Post Malone is my favorite artist, and
Okay.
Don't get me started.
Maybe someday when you're not
Maybe
here.
someday. But maybe when I'm not here. It's all right. Moving on to sports news this morning, ESPN reported that Angels center fielder Mike Trout is finalizing a 12-year, $430 million contract extension with them. This comes just after Bryce Harper's record-breaking signing with the Phillies for a 13-year, $330 million contract just weeks ago. And if you ask me, this is the most Mike Trout move I have ever seen. It's very low profile, no drama, but very big moves. And I know that you guys are not the most sporty people informed, but I am honestly very shocked by this because I think that Mike Trout is a very talented player, and I think the Angels have a lot of work to do. But if they have him for 12 years, I guess that's 12 years to get in all the work that they can to make it to the playoffs.
Right. How much money do they have? Do they have other players? Is this going to be like a one-man show? What is it? That's a lot of money. I mean, obviously, I don't know that much about buying players or whatever this is happening, but I don't know, man. I watched ESPN one time. But yeah, is this a lot of money?
This is actually a lot of money. This is a record-breaking contract now. Bryce Harper signed a contract a few weeks ago with the Phillies, and his contract was $330 million. This is $100 million more. So this is now breaking the new record. He is the highest paid sports player as of right now.
Why are we paying athletes so much? Come on, there's so many teachers and people that we need to be paying. Come on,
I've had this conversation so many times as somebody who's
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, honestly, I feel that. Like I said, I've had this conversation multiple times as a big sports gal. I'll never understand the concept of them playing for so much money.
And are they going to have enough money for their players?
What about the other people?
Yeah, it's a one-man team.
No, they spread the wealth pretty well.
Do they?
I guess I should become a baseball player then.
Baseball players get paid really, really well, but they're also still in the process of renewing their lease, and they still haven't yet. So I don't know if this is room for moving or if it's going to be a one-man show, if Mike Trout's just going to be the only person there.
When do we find out if this is final? When do we find out?
If they're finalizing it, it'll probably be within the next week or so.
All right, you'll have to keep us updated.
I will, I promise.
And with that said, that's all we have. That's all the time we have for the report today. Have a great week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Leslie Duarte.
I'm Ryan Matthew.
And I'm Ashley Antolin. Stay fresh, Fullerton.